Hello and welcome to segment 6 in this mid of the course module on extended reality and robotics. So this segment, we continue what we were doing in the previous segments, looking at sort of the different kinds of examples of systems that contain these elements of extended reality and robotics. And this time we look at some of the stuff we've developed in-house. So we have a bunch of extended reality equipment at Homestay University. This includes some headsets and an AR projector and stuff like that. We also have some robots. So this is a humanoid robot called Baxter in the top left. We've got this Swedish fur hat robot, some robots that are easy to program that you can use with education with children, for example, robot arm, and some mobile robots and drones. So one interesting example, we jump straight into the examples. One interesting example, I think, was a system that would show you power lines superimposed over your view of the city of Halmstad. And it was using HoloLens, Microsoft HoloLens. We also had simulations of robots developed by Jennifer David, where the robots were using this CHOMP motion planning framework to model Gothenburg Harbor. This is a robot that is monitoring plants as they grow, and it's doing these computer vision tasks to check that they're growing well. This was also HoloLens. The idea was that we have a smart environment at our university, and they created a digital copy of that that a doctor could see. So if a patient is living somewhere, the doctor could see maybe how they're living and what kind of activities, how active they are, for example, if they're elderly. This was also with HoloLens, and in our smart environment, the idea was location-based reminders of what to do. So if you go to the bedroom, maybe it prompts you to say, maybe it's time for a nap. Or if you go to the medication, it might say, time for your medicine. We had this demonstrator called the Bike Around, which is an immersive sphere, half sphere, plus a bicycle, so that you can get on it. And there's a projector inside that projects Google Maps. So you can, if you have dementia, for example, the idea was that you could go back to the city streets where you grew up and then move around by pedaling the bicycle within those. And we also had something similar at my previous lab in Japan, some sphere that you could get into and then have display all around you. We had a student project which was to develop this virtual excavator training machine. So there was a physical machine that you could sit on and motors that would move you about as you pilot the excavator, and then you would see through virtual reality some image of a machine like this. Some of my colleagues also set up this table with little robots where they had 4 projectors, and they could project sort of like virtual robots or other stuff onto the table. And we had a live bird cam at our university so that anybody at the university could log in to just use the right address, and then they could peek into this nest of a bird, a tit, I think it was. So I'll also talk a little bit about some of the stuff I've done. So just a quick self-intro. I used to like, as a child, fantasy novels and computer games and stuff like that. And I was very interested in this idea of extended realities, from doing sports, for example, skating. You might feel like suddenly your body schema changes. You know, suddenly your arms feel really long, like if you got plastic bags that are swinging side to side while you're skating. I used to also wake up in my dreams, this lucid dreaming stuff when I was young. And I really enjoy also some of these computer games that are interesting. You know, this location-based gaming, like in Pokemon and this World of Warcraft and stuff like that. And this XRR, for example, you can see these new apps that are coming out that are really interesting and that use extended reality or whatever. So I'm Canadian and I studied AI, and I got the PhD in Japan at a lab that's sort of well known for creating very human-like robots and androids. And I've been here for about 10 years or so. And I'm an associate professor in social robotics. I also make some tools and spread information about that through our pedagogical center, and I'm a director of some master's programs. And over time, I've created various robot prototypes. So one of those, I'm showing here is a robot that would use a brain-machine interface to read somebody's emotions and then try to paint something that relates to that. So it wasn't that the robot was trying to visually mimic what a person was doing. But then we also did that. We did a program where the robot could analyze what a person was visually painting and then do something sort of related to that, and maybe even talk with you and explain what it was doing. And we competed in an international competition and we did pretty good. This is another thing that we're working on. I'm working with Robot Magic. So last year we got an award in an international competition. We're doing it again this year, and we were using thermal cameras, which is interesting because it's hard for humans to think about thermal stuff because, for example, my glasses would look like sunglasses in thermal. Black plastic bags you can actually see through in thermal. Also, I've done stuff with biological motion. So this is another sort of interesting idea that we can represent how humans and animals move just by using some animated dots and really minimalize things. This is another one using thermal to estimate medicine intake. It's sort of, we have these pill boxes that can do this, but often people don't take their pills. They just remove the pills. They forget to take them, or they don't want to take them. But this is another way to check that. This is another one is about exercising. So here, a Kinect device was used to sense a person's pose, and then a robot would try to motivate them to exercise. It would try to mimic maybe what they were doing, or say, you know, oh, you should maybe correct this, make this a bit straighter, but otherwise it's good, you know, that type of thing. We've done stuff with first aid, also with creating. So on the top right, you can see this simulation where this robot is patrolling. It finds some type of object of human-like size, and then it checks the temperature. Okay, if it's warm, then it might be a human, and then it tries to find the face, tries to find skin, like hands and stuff like that, and then creates a model of the pose of the person that could maybe be sent to emergency workers. Then they can maybe figure out, okay, this guy's lying this way at the bottom of the stairs, so maybe they fell down the stairs. We looked also at what would happen if we could sense people's emotions in a very accurate way. Right now, that's very difficult, but we imagined two countermeasures. Like one could be to somehow hide a person's emotions. We could do some type of cloaking or spoofing or whatever. Another way to work with this kind of problem is to actually provide richer information about emotions that a person's feeling, to sort of visualize that, to avoid misunderstandings. We have a project that's quite interesting where I'm involved in mentoring a student, which is about checking water purity to find contaminants. So we're seeing this invisible reality below the water surface. And there's a little video of looking from the robot's view. There's a VR headset where you can check out what the robot is doing and then use that to help pilot the robot. Yeah. Another thing I'm working on is this idea that if we have robots in society, what should their role be? Should robots help us if there's some crime happening, if there's some violence, should they actually try to help us? And this involved creating some simulations with various simulation software like Unreal Engine. Also, another thing I'm involved with is the world of hidden messages, steganography. So this is like a simple way to think about this is like if you're blinking in Morse code, or if you behind somebody's back, if you wave or if you point or you make these bunny ears behind somebody's head for a photo, this kind of thing. Could robots do this? I'm also involved in teaching a course which has incorporated different XRR elements. So for example, I've got this AR projector that can project onto some type of 3D shape, and you don't need to hook up a computer. It's got its own inbuilt computer that you can send what you want it to do, and it can play back video. So here on the left, this is an image of a very simple image of a traffic light. So every now and then the traffic light will become green or red. And then our students can make robots that can move around based on the traffic light. I've also looked at stuff like using different kinds of fiducial markers, control of different types of robots like drones, deep learning using animals as well. So looking at their movements and then making robots move based on that, object recognition, traffic recognition, ambulance stuff. I've also worked with robots in education. So here's a picture of this robot teaching assistant I built a while ago, which could do various things in class. This is also a simulated creature that I created for giving my students quizzes in their class, and the face would try to show it was alive by looking toward you using face recognition, and then recognize also some speech. And if you clicked on its face, it would say, "Ouch, quit it! Don't click on my eyes." That type of stuff. I also made this program that would be able to tell how much students wanted to hear about some specific topic, so that if they wave their hands really a lot, and that would carry more weight than somebody who just put up their hand like this and doesn't really care either way. This is also an auto display tool I created, so that if I say something, I use speech recognition, and then I can immediately look up from Google some images to show about that can provide extra information to students learning about something. Because I noticed in some classes, like language classes, students often wonder how to spell a word. So you can just spell it out while the teacher is talking. You can play with that in different ways. This is trying to look at novel modalities, like what would happen if a robot can become transparent, like a car's bonnet or whatever, I guess is similar to that. What if we have some type of prototype that can take energy from you, from the warmth of your hands, from the kinetic energy when you touch it? That's what I built over here. What if a robot can become big or small? How will we think about that? I looked at that one too. What if we have a flying humanoid? Humanoids are great for being able to handle many different types of tasks, and flying robots are great because they have awesome mobility. They can just fly over barriers. So in recent years, many people have come out with their own flying humanoids, but that was the first one. Education, this was also involved animations using Blender. This was about how people will interpret flight motions. So what they think is maybe dangerous. If a robot's flying by their head, is that dangerous? Entertainment, I was looking at using new modalities of communication, like if a robot gets hot or very cold, what does that mean? Some people thought it was shocking, like it was a dead body or something when it suddenly got cold, when if you did something bad to it, it would get cold. Using electronic paper, e-paper, to show somebody's name persistently, even when power is turned off. I was looking at primacy in robot behaviors, like if you hug a robot warmly while you're looking sad, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're being affectionate, or, this type of thing? Education, yeah, I was looking at also using this prototype over here. When a person wants to do something, when they want to communicate affection or whatever, how exactly did they do it? How can we recognize that? And here I was using a Kinect sensor as well as touch sensors to try to accurately detect touches, because I thought touch was sort of an interesting and important modality. Previously, I'd made some simulations like about stigmergic nest building in wasps using vermal and stuff, which doesn't exist anymore. I think it's been superseded by another thing. And I was simulating animals in the Arctic, wolves and muskox, and how they interact. I've got some other nice memories that aren't really so much related to research per se. Like I had an hour-long telemeeting with a professor in Italy through an Android, which was interesting because the Android had very little information it was giving. It was mostly just still. And so it was not so easy for me to know where to look when I was speaking, as with a human. When my parents visited Japan, we had coffee together with an android that was operated by a human in the background, a Wizard of Oz operator. We had 4 stations at the university where I was, which was really fun, that you could teleoperate robots in all of the stations. So I could play soccer with one robot in the basement of a building. And there was another robot which had a fish tank close to it, so I could go over and watch the fish. And I could also pilot robots to go talk to friends if I had something to ask them. And some people, interestingly, used one of these robots at a conference. They were piloting it and they tried to crash it into another robot, but they couldn't because the sensors on the robot prevented it. And I've also used robots in some events, like our Christmas party recently. I used this double robotics telerobot. Yeah, so thank you for listening. I hope there are some interesting ideas here for you, and see you next segment.